my dears. It's only blooming Harry Potter, except take all this Fantastic Beasts rubbish and pop it in the bin. Did you see all the smoke that just erupted then from the books? That shows you how much they've been read. I don't think I've ever actually read any of them. They just, you know, look, it was a different time. It was 2017. We had an awkward, bumbling Newt Scamander on his hands. It was fun, okay? It was fun. So, franchise it. Agents of MACK. So on the Joe West YouTube channel, we've already franchised the living death out of Fantastic Beasts. You can see that if you have a cheeky little scroll, I'm sure. So now it's time to franchise our franchise, to do a microcosm franchise, the Agents of MACK. Why is it called the Agents of MACK? Well, just cast your minds back to the first Fantastic Beasts movie. The American Ministry of Magic is called the Magical Congress of the United States, right? Well, the FBI is called the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Boring, it's too long, try putting that on the poster. So most people just call it MACK. You know, hey, you got a shift at MACK today? Oh, a couple of boys in blue here from MACK. Of course, they won't be like boys in blue. We want to separate ourselves from that sort of imagery. But there are also not men in black, so maybe they're the gals in green. Gals in green, I like that, yeah. Female sort of task force and stuff. The name's a work in progress. I don't know if that's going to be like a microcosm title and the thing underneath, or if we want to keep the Wizarding World branding, but Agents of MACK. It works. Look, Jeremy, it's a bloody work in progress, alright? Just bear with me, will you? So they're basically like Torchwood, you know what I mean? They're not ultra stuffy like conservative, oh, we have to keep the peace and keep the magic and Jedi.
What about the droid?
I understand.
Because we know that doesn't work, mate. They're the bloody ragtag group that they have a board of a committee that they report to, but the whole series is about them just going off grid across America and you know, bringing Potter to the States and just completely shaking things up. You know what I mean? They don't always get along. They've got little disagreements along the way, and they have a really cool base. Now, what's cool about the base? I thought of it literally 5 minutes before filming. What's cool about the base? It's Newt Scamander's suitcase. So the Agents of MACK takes place towards the sort of 70s, 80s, 90s, sort of back end of the 20th century. We'll get to it, don't worry about it, but basically it takes place after the Fantastic Beasts franchise, which means, what's happened to Newt Scamander? Oh, what's happened to him? Who knows, mate? Well, if you've watched my video, by this point he's married Queenie in a lovely little ceremony, he's given up his suitcase, or he's living in it, I don't know, but basically they've got the case, and they've got sort of Fantastic Beasts knocking around inside of it, but they basically retrofitted it, so it's got like, you know, creepy little trinkets and fun things, you know what I mean? Even Newt couldn't stick in his suitcase for longer than one film. He had the little base, right, with the lady and the fish and all that stuff. So casting wise, I don't know, mate, just a bloody bunch of up and coming actors. I don't know, we can sort of swap them out as and when, do you know what I mean? But for Deaths's, you know, you're gonna have, it's gonna be really, really original. With the team dynamic is gonna be so original. You're gonna have your rugged leader who doesn't like to open up. You're gonna have your tech guy. You're gonna have the muscle. You're gonna have the girl. You know what I said about the timelines? These films are all going to take place in distinctively different timelines across Americans' history, right? You know, from the 1950s onwards. So we could, you know, if we wanted to, if we went chronologically, we could age the characters up. Let's say one film takes place in each decade. We could age them up, or we could just pull a bloody X-Men and just keep them all the same age, mate. I'm not bothered. Are you bothered? I don't think anyone's really bothered, to be honest. The Wizards, don't they age slower anyway? Dumbledore's like 280. I don't even know how old Snape is. My boy Slughorn though, he's a right young man.
I'm gonna pop some tags, only got $20 in my pocket.
Canonically, he's 25. It's there in the book. When was the last time you read Half-Blood Prince? It's in there. It's in there. It's one of the first lines of the story. Don't Google it. And so the clincher of this franchise, you know, to give ourselves a little bit of a challenge, it is going to be about the Fantastic Beasts, because I think that's a really good sort of plot device that we can utilise across all the films. Because we're not fighting Voldemort, we're not fighting Grimble-Gondor. Because the issue with them is that they perpetuate this kind of basically wizard Nazi imagery, which is fine for the books because it's all in your little noggin, but as soon as you try and put that on screen, it gets a bit muddy. We don't want to touch all that. So it's Fantastic Beasts, mate. Not every franchise needs a concrete human villain. I mean, just look at the Fast and Furious movies. They're 9 films in, and the villains are still the cars, right? I've not seen one. Are the cars the villains? Are they Transformers? Have they gone to Jurassic World yet? Who knows? So the villains of these movies are primarily the beasts, but we are going to introduce some dark wizards who I don't really want to give a name to, like an activist group, because again it feels a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit too close to home. So for the purposes of this video, whenever I mention dark wizards, just imagine, just put it on yourself, just use your own sort of dark wizard imagery. They can be like a little bit ugly and a bit loose toothy if you want, or they can be a bit more slick and slide on this banana peel. In each film they are going to look pretty different and they are going to be functionally different groups. We can have one mainstay guy, I don't know, call him Jeremy or something, who stays with him throughout the entire franchise, but I'm not really worried about that, are you? The Beast of Blue Moon Bay, kicking us right off of the franchise. It's got everybody's favourite, a shark movie. Ooh. But this ain't no normal little shark, no, this is a wizard shark, this is a magical shark. It is freaking huge, right, and it is dangerous. It's an 80s, sun-drenched Harry Potter horror. Ain't never seen that before, have we? They got a bunch of witches and wizards on spring break from Ilvermorny, as well as the agents of MACK, so as well as them trying to run around, trying to fix everything, you got all these like young radical witches and wizards trying to prove themselves, and they're trying to help as well. Meanwhile, you've got all these muggles who, you can't tell the muggles what's actually going on. The muggles all just think it's this crazy shark that's come after them. And as this is a water-based movie, I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but we're gonna sort of dip our toes into the world of your, not Atlantis, but you know, the world of the mer people, you sort of creature from the Black Lagoon. And we've got another film in the franchise that's based in Florida specifically, or at least the southern states. So I'm envisioning this is more California, but we could take a little field trip to New Orleans and sort of do a bit of that sort of culture, do you know what I mean? These deep ones, these mer people who can talk in a very sort of, you know, this ancient sort of civilization, and they're who they get to help to come fight the shark. So the threat doesn't have to be super big in this one, you know, like a singular shark might not sound like a compelling villain.
Here's Brucey!
Maybe the story isn't about fighting the villain, but it's about the friends we make along the way.
Come on and slay! You wanna dance!
So, Twilight of Terror. No, not Twilight Zone of Terror, you animals. Twilight of Terror. It takes place in a 24-hour shopping mall. It's like Stranger Things Season 3 meets
Family.
Something. So this installment is actually set during a fictional hurricane in Florida. You see how I mentioned I was going to come back to it? Which is threatening to tear the land apart. So the idea behind this is that the agents of MACK's job in this film, to begin with, is to use the thunderstorm to transport dragons. Dragons don't belong to the agents of MACK, the dragons just need to get from point A to point B, and the easiest way to do that is under the cover of this horrible thunderstorm, this hurricane, do you know what I mean? So while this is happening, all the muggles are going to be inside anyway, and although yes it is very dangerous, it's a very rewarding task that they remove these dragons. But during the midst of it, they are encountered by the first time we see the Dark Wizards, who are like these mercenaries who I can imagine being very much like the gangs from Romeo and Juliet. You know, they've got like the really sort of brightly coloured shirts, they've got like crazy hair, a little slack-jawed yokel. I like the idea that they're like Quidditch players, you know, they all ride broomsticks. But their version of Quidditch is very sort of jock orientated, it's very sort of like American football and stuff, and they've got like all the heavy sort of armour and gear and stuff, so they swoop down, there's a battle in the middle, you know, cows sort of flying around, storm chasers are looking up like, what is going on up there? And basically the dragons get freed and start sort of tearing up the landscape, which gets us into the mall where these people were hiding out as a hurricane shelter. So not only do the agents of MACK have to defend the muggles from dragons and a hurricane, but also dark wizards as well. And you know, again, they're trying not to use magic, or they're trying to use magic very sort of minimally, but you know, it's a lot of fun. That sounds fun, doesn't it? Sure, it won't be traumatic for any real world hurricane survivors or anything, or I'm just, you know, using natural disasters as a means for an action film.
Come on and slay! You wanna dance!
Big Trouble in Lovely Henderson. Do you like One Division, kid? Well, good. Because we're going right back to the 50s and you're gonna like it. So, timeline-wise, this one is quite further out from the rest, as you'll sort of gather. And if our characters don't age, it literally doesn't matter. But this is like the earliest set film in the 20th century, but I don't want it to be the first film because it's a bit too heavy on the theming. It doesn't really set a good impression for what the series is going to be about. So I'm suggesting this be our time turner one. This be our time travel story. The idea here is it's set in Nevada or Roswell. Muggle scientists were using a nuclear test site to test nuclear weapons. What they didn't realise is there were these sort of like chupacabra creatures living naturally on that test site who the nuclear explosions have mutated them and made them all awful. And over the 20 or 30 years to get to the sort of present day plot that the agents of MACK existing, they've mutated and they launch an all-out war on the human race, or they get uncovered in sort of like a mining rig operation, some inciting incident, blah blah blah. They start tearing up the landscape. Now, yes, the agents of MACK can just fight them in present day, but when they figure out how they got created, because unlike every other fantastic beast in this franchise, you know, the shark and the dragons and the goat giants and all that and stuff, do you know what I mean? These were man-made. Yeah, the chupacabras existed anyway, but them in their current form were man-made. So they realised, well, we can go back and unman-make them. So we can use time turners to travel back to the 1950s, and it's all fun because, you know, the agents of MACK, they're quite progressive. They all get on, you know, they got the one girl on the team, they all get on, they're all nice, thigh slapping, she picks up all the ones and goes, I'm always picking up after you boys and stuff like that. But now they're going to go back to the 1950s where they're all like, make me a sandwich. I don't know, sandwich, make me a sandwich joke still relevant and funny. Yeah, so it's kind of like you fish out of water, and this one's less sort of like bombastic, like battle at the end, and it's more sort of dealing with people, you know what I mean? But it turns out that not only did they travel back in time, it's a real Terminator situation, but the Dark Wizards sent their own agents back in time. And these own agents, they're not like mercenaries, they're not like rednecks, they're scientists, they are dark scientists. They still use wands and stuff, but they also use heavy machinery that they enchant and sort of rig. They mutate like Muggle technology for their own games to then mutate fantastic beasts. It's very messed up if you ask me. So there's this all-out sort of battle happening, and there's a time bomb, we love a ticking time bomb, don't we, in our major Hollywood blockbusters. Ticking time bomb to this situation, because of course they can only use a time turner feasibly once, because they keep using it to go back, it's going to get confusing, and we're going to address all the criticisms of the time turner usage in Prisoner of Azkaban in a sort of retroactive setting. You bet your bottom dollar we're going to see Wizard Vegas. It's going to be great, don't even worry about it.
Come on and slam! You wanna jam!
It came from the mist. So this one's a bit more of a personal story, not personal to me, it's just personal to the characters. Up in the foothills of Canada, the agents of MACK seek guidance from an old founding member of MACK. But this guy won't budge, he's all grumpy, he's all beardy, and he insists, I ain't gonna help you, you know, they've got a problem that's too big, and they need his help. But he's all like, I ain't coming back to MACK, I'm out here protecting this small town, hunting down Bigfoot. Of course, it isn't actually Bigfoot, that's just what the Muggles called it, but it's some sort of fantastic beast that we haven't seen yet that has big feet. You know what I mean? It's like an ape man sort of thing. And this guy's got a vengeance with him. This was the one creature he could never find when he was working with MACK all those years. Maybe this is the reason why he retired and stuff, to come and hunt this creature and stuff. And he's guardian over this town. You know, he's not really popular with the people. He protects them, hunts the beasts that are around this town and what have you, and sort of brings them like deer carcasses and I don't know, and don't eat meat. But you know what I mean? Like he sort of brings them stuff and that. But he's not like super popular guy. So the agents of MACK are left in this predicament. You know, we've got both an old man redemption arc and also the King Kong story of going to the beast and trying to sort of convince it to do a thing. But when they eventually get to Bigfoot, it turns out he's got a whole family of Bigfoots that your boy conveniently forgot to mention, didn't he? Do you know what I mean? And he's like, I don't care, you know, he's got a wife, he's got kids. Doesn't matter, mate, you know what I mean? They've all got to go, they're all just bloody Bigfoots, mate. So now they've got to figure out a little thing called motive. Oh my god, this franchise has got ticking time bombs, it's got motive, it's got everything you need and more. Everything and more. Everything and more. Everything's more. They've got to figure out, like, okay, are they attacking because they're provoked? Are they attacking because they're hungry? Because they're scared? Do they need passage? We've got to translate to this guy, he'll only help us if he can kill one of these Bigfoots, but we don't want him to kill the Bigfoots because they're a fantastic beast. Yeah, you know what I mean? And during all of this, they've got some rogue, like, redneck dark wizards who catch wind of what the agents of MACK are up to. Maybe they're renegades though, maybe they're renegade, like former agents of MACK, do you know what I mean, who've sort of like come down and they're like real rednecks, they use bear traps, they use all these horrible sort of gadgets and gizmos to sort of get to their means. So they got to defend Bigfoot from the old guy and the agents of MACK and hopefully get them to fight together. You know, it's a real like Fort Wilderness situation, it's a real sort of out there fun. It's fun.
Come on and slam! You wanna jam!
Stars over Ilvermorny. So this one is kind of a misnomer. This one's a little bit separate from the main franchise. None of these are particularly chronological, but this one could very well be its own Netflix series, or if they decide to do like a Wizarding World streaming service, just whack it on there, mate. Disney's going to buy it eventually anyway. It takes place in the 1600s and it follows the founding and forming of the American wizarding school, wizarding college, with the backdrop of the Salem witch trials, do you know what I mean? So it's all like wooden huts, but yeah, basically like huts and sort of politics and all that fun stuff. We're going to bring in some Native American culture and sort of, you know, go over some sort of like real world beliefs that actually went into the forming of Ilvermorny. Lads, look, I read that on Pottermore. I think that was JK just trying to play the not racist card, if you ask me. It's going to tell this rich tapestry of this story about prejudice, about understanding, about acceptance, about this strange new world, and we'll throw in some magical beasts in there somewhere. I like the idea in this one of two things. One, magic's a lot more raw, you know what I mean, because the setting's pretty darn drab, you know, with the pointy hats and all the Thanksgiving sort of imagery. So, you know what I mean, the magic is much more raw. Like, yeah, they do use wands, but they also use like staffs and stuff like that, do you know what I mean? So magic can be a lot more impactful. And in those days, the sort of gimmick of these films of, oh, we're magic, but we gotta keep a secret, that kind of goes away, because in those days people did believe, evidently did believe in witches, so they can kind of show their all a bit more. And second to that, I think the Dark Wizards in this one should side with the colonizers, essentially side with the Muggles and want to kill their own kind.
Be my protector.
Yeah.
Because even though they, you know, these are like sort of a bit more regal, sort of like pure blood and all that weird sort of part of Harry Potter, they understand that it's just like, well, if the Muggles are burning these witches, then at least they ain't burning us witches, do you know what I mean? You can have a real Agatha Harkness sort of old spinster character that, you know, like burn baby burn sort of thing. It's fun.
Come on, it's like you wanna dance.
Battle Scars.
Battle scars.
Battle Scars
Battle scars.
is a bit conflicting because, you know, old Mac, the wizards, and famously wizards don't get involved in Muggle politics or wars or anything like that. But there are a small community of wizards held up in Vietnam who, you know, are experimenting with very different kinds of magic, and they've purposely come away from the world, not only of Muggles, but of wizards as well, to sort of experiment with this specific type of magic, or this brand of magic and what have you. But of course their land is literally being threatened by the Vietnam War. Second to that, a bunch of dark wizards. Now these guys are very militant and they infiltrate with the US Armed Forces and they bring in giants. They don't care, they're just going to bring in giants and dragons and those giant spiders, whatever they can throw at it really, to get to this island, to get to these Vietnamese wizards. So it's up to the agents of MACK to infiltrate the Vietnam War and to sort of, you know, cover up the tracks of these giants that are being used and all this stuff. You know what I mean? And then obviously the usual sort of commentary about the Vietnam War was bad maybe. Oh, they've got like this image of, like, you know, the sun going down, the blazing sun in the background of phoenixes, you know, flying with the heli-choppers and stuff like that. You know? Fun.
Come on, it's like you wanna dance.
Streets of Sorcery. Now, I don't know about how or why, but I want a grungy New York Joker, Taxi Driver, Martin Scorsese sort of crime drama to do with wizards. Right, I think this could be done pretty well with Dementors and the sort of shiftier, spookier side of magical beasts. We've literally seen one where it's like giants in the Vietnam War. This isn't all that. This isn't your big bombastic sort of make a statement. This is very back-seated, you know what I mean? It's all to do with house elves, and we're going to throw some goblins in there as well because it's to do with the money. Do you know what I mean? The Dark Wizards in this one are big gangsters. That means big flare jeans, big collars, do you know what I mean? And they use their wands very much as more like guns. We've got like corrupt cops who are kind of aware at this point of the existence of wizards and magic, but they don't care as long as they get paid. And as far as wizards are concerned, you know, Muggle money is like a dime a dozen, mate. The exchange rate is really good. Yeah, so we've got like shifty sort of street dealings, high speed cop car chases, and that sweet, sweet grunge that everyone's so desperate for these days. We'll get Zack Snyder to direct this one, don't even worry about it.
Come on, it's like you wanna dance.
And let the right one in. Now this is the kind of last idea I had. So, we're not touching on, you know, the wizard Nazi imagery, but that doesn't mean we can't touch on wizard politics. So it's the early 90s, American politics and the White House is pumped full of late market capitalism, your American psycho imagery and new coke. And our president here, we want him to be sort of like a sympathetic character. Maybe he's just brand new, it's an alternate history, or it could be like a Hillary Clinton sort of surrogate. Who knows? You know, but he's just welcoming in a new baby boy. But their son is possessed. And now, I don't know how much the devil is worked into the Potterverse. I don't know if there's a Pottermore article for Lucifer or what have you, but basically I'm sure in the Potterverse there's some sort of form of demonic possession, do you know what I mean? Like a dark sort of spirit possessing a thing. Well, these dark wizards have orchestrated that, so the president's son is possessed. He is the Omen. Now, why are they doing this? Well, if this is the early 90s, that means we're this last-ditch attempt before Harry Potter is old enough. The child, they'll keep referring to the child, and everyone needs to talk about the old one, they talk about Harry Potter. You know what I mean? There's this last-ditch attempt to be like, okay, well, you know, throughout the 80s and stuff, sure, all dark wizards were thought to have gone away, the Dark Lord was killed and all that stuff, so they're thinking, well, alright, if we can't govern sort of British Ministry of Magic, maybe we can govern America, because America's huge, as we've seen. They've got all these different facets of dark wizards across the whole country who are willing to sort of side with them. So you see like dark wizard politicians who not only are they running for their own party, but they are sabotaging the current president as well. Can't get through to him, but sure as hell possess his son and sort of cause a lot of mayhem and madness that way. They sort of force him out and stuff. So it's up to the boys of MACK to infiltrate the White House, you know what I mean, and try and get to this kid, and it's conflicting because it's like, where's a kid but he's possessed, but and this one's very True Blood, and you know, it's called Let the Right One In, so it's very much leading on the sort of vampire nature of the wizarding world, which I know is not like a super big part of the franchise, but well, we're making it, aren't we? So as you can see with this franchise, you know, we've took it to the States. We're going to get that mass market appeal from the American audience, and you know, you can go anywhere really. Tie this in with the current Fantastic Beasts reboot, franchise it, Fantastic Beasts, tied in with that. The possibilities are endless.